All right, everyone. Thank you for coming. I call this meeting to order at 5:31. 1 minute off. Shucks. All right.
Always late.
Yeah. Moving on to roll call and attendance. Alejandro. Here. Eric.
Here.
Joey.
Here.
Edgar.
Here.
Monica.
Here.
Dane.
Here.
Aubrey.
Here.
Josh.
Here.
Lacey.
Here.
Cece.
Here.
Greg is just gonna be.
He might be running late.
Okay. Jess.
Here.
I'm here. Martin.
Here.
That was
Excused. I think that's everyone. Cool. Going on to the agenda approval. Everyone please look over the agenda for January 22nd. Voice any questions or concerns. Eric,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
motion on the table. Edgar seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, so moved. Agenda is approved. Looking at the approval of the minutes from January 15th, please look over them, voice any questions or concerns. I'll entertain a motion. Eric.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Wonderful. Monica seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Thank you all. Okay. Going into reports. I don't really have reports. I think I'll just tag on your report. So, start with Joey.
Yeah, two different pieces kind of related. One is the subcommittee meeting. Thank you for getting it set up and organized. Edgar is set for this Friday at 3 o'clock. Those of you who are on the subcommittee got the email from Edgar, so hopefully you're able to make it. It'll be in the CWU conference room. At that point, the plan is to really go over the supplemental questionnaires, which were due today. Just so you know, out of the 55 base funded areas, we received almost all of them. That we have 5 units. One is 3 of them together who are working on it and got some feedback and are going to have theirs by tomorrow morning. So they'll be there. And then we have 7 units who we haven't had any contact from. And so I'll be reaching out to them in the morning since we don't have their supplemental questionnaires yet for the subcommittee to review on Friday. But we haven't had any contact from those ones yet. That's all I got.
Okay, so the deadline for winter quarter that the committee had set for supplementals is today. So I kind of wanted to go over a couple of things. The ones that are on the docket to vote on, the grand total right now, if approved as of with what they've asked for, is actually $21,518. And I just want to make sure everybody's reminding of this figure over here. So what this is saying is that we have $126,000 left for the rest of the year. So just I want to make sure everybody's mindful of that. And to kind of go through this list, just note that the reason why these are kind of highlighted a different color is because they're not totally processed yet. They're all allowable expenses, but I just have a couple of follow-up questions on a few of these. And so in the next couple of days, I hope to resolve some of those. But with that being said, if the budget numbers don't change for those requests, we have quite a few on the docket. So to give you guys an idea, that is a total of 340, well, we'll just round up and say it's almost $350,000 that's left just with the list right here. So be mindful of that and the fact that we have $126,000 left. And I don't know, Brandon, do you want to tag in and say anything?
Yeah, just like points of consideration as well, looking at kind of our budget situation is to make sure that we're being equitable and fair stewards of this budget. So just knowing, despite where our budget is right now, that we continue to, I guess, like analyze each request as it comes in the same way we would analyze it as we did at the beginning of fall quarter, just because that's fair and that's what we promised and said that's what we would do from the start. But yeah, with that, just know we have requests here and that we are pretty much destined to possibly run out of funds by the end of this quarter. So I just want you all to look at that and then kind of think about where we would be in the future for this committee. the start of the school year, or maybe we could, if we don't have the funds, we would focus on other things like such as policy changes, because there will exactly be supplemental requests on the docket. So I just want us to like consider the directions that we could head as a committee, looking at like the budget situation we're in, and then also just keeping in our minds while we're allocating money that we should be equitable and fair moving forward. Joe.
And to tack on to that, and I have one piece I forgot on mine. We will, because we have received all these, regardless of where we are with the funds, still allow all of these to present and come before you all. Obviously, if we have overspent the funds, those will be conversations that we will have once we get to that point. But because we did give a deadline for those for winter quarter and we've received them, everything that's on here will have the opportunity to present before you on the committee. Again, if we spend and allocate the funds at this point, we won't receive any other requests moving into spring quarter though, so we're aware of that. The other part, as a heads up, once again, I'm on call, so if this phone rings and I have to step out, I'm not being rude.
Lacey.
And just for the piece about the funds packets that are on the docket so far is Joey and I have a meetings scheduled for tomorrow to go over the schedule for winter quarter. Since there's quite a few on the list, we're going to work tomorrow to see what that schedule looks like, and then basically be able to blast it out to everybody that is presenters, so that they have an idea of where they fit in the queue, because it is quite a few. So that hopefully will go out communication-wise either by Friday or Monday.
Perfect. That's it for reports. Great. Okay, I'll be moving on to the next part of the agenda, which is public comment first call. I'll open up comments to the galley. Do you have any? Guy?
Hi, if you guys don't know me, I'm the president of the Electric Vehicle Club. Not the car club, different clubs. I just wanted to let you all know about something that I did recently, which was go to CES. I left here on the 5th of, what was this month? This month? Yeah, 5th of January. Did I? Yeah, now I'm all confused. Anyways, I spent 5 days in Las Vegas and a couple of days on either side within airports. 5 days in Las Vegas at the Consumer Entertainment Show, I believe it's called. And it's a big, giant technology conference with lots of technology stuff. But the reason I bring this up is because on that 5-day trip, the entire cost for my trip alone, one person, was $135. I did not spend a single dollar in the city of Las Vegas for 5 days. I know that I bring this up and you're like, hey, we need hotels, we need cars, and that, believe me, I understand. But if you're willing to live a little dangerously, I stayed through a service called couchsurfing.com. And what that is, there's a series of hosts and a series of surfers. What I was a surfer. And I said, hey, you get an account on this website, you get verified, and then it's like the Tinder of staying on somebody's couch while they're still living in that apartment. That does sound kind of dangerous to a lot of people, I understand. So I understand that a hotel room in many cases is much better. But if you're just by yourself and you want to do this, it is possible. And how did I get to the conference? I didn't rent a vehicle. I walked 3.5 miles to the Hard Rock Hotel every day of the conference, one way. And then I got onto the free shuttle from that hotel to the conference center. And then I walked the 3.5 miles back to where I was staying. But that's how I did it. It's possible. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Sweet. Thank you, Guy, for the public comment. Going on to old business, which is supplemental voting, request 2023, which is Fort Townsend Writing Conference for $1,915. Open the floor to you all. recall request 2023.
Yeah, I think big parts of it were, 2 students would be going. A big cost in the request was for the conference classes that they were taking. At least what I remember from the form. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve $1,200 for this conference. I would like to give them all the money, but I really think for us to be equitable here and for all the future requests that are in front of us, I don't want people to just come and request money and then we're just like, well, there isn't any, and maybe we'll give you, I want to be able to make sure that there's at least some money when spring happens. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with the $1,200 motion.
There's a motion on the table. Getting seconds.
Can I have a discussion? Here?
You have to second first. You can second and then discuss and then vote no.
I'll redact that if I can.
If there's no second, then the discussion is still open.
Yeah.
That motion died.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think if we're going to be fair and equitable to every group that comes to us, we need to do this. If this was our first request of fall quarter, we need to see it like that. And so I know I don't know if you guys talked about this in your addresses, but we do have the option to put more money into the supplemented funding balance that we started with at the beginning of the year. Having said that, I think that we should look at this. We should look at every request, like, the same way we look at all of them in the beginning. Not just because we're running out of money. That's what we talked about at the beginning. But we still have the ability to add more money into our budget. So with that being said, we still got to go look and critique all these, make sure they're still doable. Having said that, but I liked how this group particularly went out and got scholarships for this and cut their cost in half essentially. So no fault to them that they run out of money. So I'd like to motion that we allot the full 1915.
Motion on the table. Edgar seconds. Edgar seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion to fund in the full amount? Alright, seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstentions? One. That's a tie. I'll vote in favor. So moved, the full amount, 1915. Moving on to funding request 2024, which is the Washington Music Educators Association Conference, which is for NAFME, $6,723.20. I'll open up the floor for discussion. Eric.
If I may, in their request, they pointed out that the request would include 67% of the music department or members of of the national organization going to this conference in Yakima. And as I would like to support all those students to go to that conference, I find that that's just not possible. And I believe that, and it is not up to us to decide who goes and who doesn't. So I would like to make a motion to approve $2,500 for the Washington Music Education Association Conference.
Motion on the table to allow them 2,500. CC seconds. CC seconds. we'll move on to discussion of the motion to fund the $2,500. Eric?
Another part of this is, I don't believe that when we are funding, if we do choose to fund this, that there really is a way for them to bring that back to campus to enlighten many different distinct areas on campus. And then that's one of our requirements is that, you know, what you're going on, what your conference are going on, is you're going to be able to bring this back to the greater campus and utilize what you've learned. And I don't believe that is something that's possible with this. So it's one of the reasons yeah.
Any vote?
I will, and again, this is just factual,
No.
no stance. I will say that question did come up, and I believe the presenters did articulate on there. These pieces are brought back not only to the music side, but also the education. And within those courses, there are other education majors who are not in the music piece, so they do share some of these tips with. So I know they touched on that. The other part I will, just to put this in the perspective of it, is when we talk about 148 people going, when we talk about groups of 5 people bringing it back to a club of 30, it's hard to keep that in comparison when we talk about those. So to be mindful, while the large group, we're looking at the number of students and the cost within that.
Lacey?
And I would just so when we're talking about being consistent with the previous requests, and this is just kind of my take, is that this seems to fit in line with some other of the conferences that have been on the docket and also been approved, and then also some that are coming up. So just to basically be mindful of the conference trips that you have approved before, and the ones that could come up in the future, to be consistent with those requests.
Cece?
I would like to say, like, I do agree with Eric in the sense that there are 140 members going to this conference, and if there was a way to reduce that amount or make it beneficial with a less amount of people going to that conference, I would be up for it. But again, and then there's like 35 cars, and there's a lot of concern with that part, in my opinion. But yeah.
Any other discussion? Motion to fund the 2,500. Seeing none, move to the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? 3 abstentions? 1. So moved. We fund $2,500 for request 2024. Moving on to request 2025, which is the Phi Alpha Theta Conference History Club for $4,250. Floor is open for discussion. Eric?
I'm abstaining from the discussion and vote on this since I am a part of the history department.
Thank you. We're on the committee now. Jody?
Well, I know you all are thinking, and I see you all looking over the request. I know you are sitting there. Just as a reminder, and especially as we're going to be getting down on to the where we have to make some tough decisions, is as we talked about earlier in the year, making sure that we're discussing if there are reasons we're choosing to not approve a request. So if you're sitting there thinking this is not a motion that we want to approve or in the full amount, that you are sharing that openly with the committee. So that way the rest of the committee is able to provide responses, but also so the funding groups who are here looking to present know what to anticipate or the rationale behind why. And it provides some consistency, so if there's a reason we're not gonna approve something, the rest of the committee can be consistent with our other ones on there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm a part of the history department too, but I'll get the ball rolling if that's what we need. I think the only thing that we brought up to question that maybe that we could have them adjust maybe is they talk about 2 people in a hotel room, and maybe they could fit a third or a fourth, perhaps, cut costs a little bit there. But overall, from what I know, I didn't never gone or whatever, but having the previous people win awards and get to show their research on a pretty big stage is pretty interesting. What else? What do you guys think?
Joey.
And just for clarification's sake, being part of the department does not require you to abstain, Dan.
Okay, all right.
I appreciate Eric's stance in there, but if you're not part of the club or would not be benefiting from this, it's not a requirement that you abstain.
I'm not benefiting,
I know.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve full amount.
There's a motion on the table to lock the full amount. Dane, you second. Dane seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion to lock the full amount, $4,250? Seeing none, we'll move to the voting. All those in favor? Opposed? 2 abstentions. 3 abstentions. So moved. We lock in the full amount, $4,250. Moving on to funding request 2026, which is BSU Showtime at Central for $6,379.85. Open up the floor to discussion. Eric, go for it.
I've gone to this event, and I have to say, it's quite fun, and it really has a broad swath of students participating. Some I wish didn't, but that's why we boo, and they get swept off the stage. But I really think it's a good event, which is bringing the whole campus community together in the middle of winter quarter when we're all feeling very gray, blue, and otherwise, and for laughs and fun in a safe space. So I would like to make a motion to approve the full amount of $6,380 for Showtime at Central.
This is a motion to lock in the full amount plus 15 cents. Monica, you second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? None. So moved to fund BSU the full amount, $6,380. Moving on to funding request 2028, the American Association of Geographers Conference for $2,250. Eric?
I know when they were presenting last week, it sounds like this is the first time Central's been represented at this conference, and I think that's really wonderful and important for our school to get our name out there for other things. And so I would like to make a motion to approve this in the full amount, $2,250.
There's a motion on the table from the full amount. CC, you second? CC seconds. All those, or is there any discussion? Sorry. To Dave.
This is not a big deal, but I had 2150. Is it 2250?
I have 2,250.
I mean, I will agree with Dane in the fact that I think by doing my math, it was 2150, but they never changed their request, which was 2250. So I have written 2150 when I did my own subtraction of the pieces, which my guess is that's probably what you did as well, Dane. Probably you.
Big numbers,
That was high school.
What should we do with that then?
Well, and I will just say as a reminder that obviously, if they come back, this is reimbursement based, so if the cost really is $21.50 and they come back and did not spend that they just would not be allocated that remaining amount. So there's not a need necessarily to change it, but you all can choose to vote down the request and put in a new one if you want.
Alejandro?
Did this group say that they would present a source?
Yeah.
You did. Any further discussion to allot them the full amount of the paper says? Seeing none, moves to voting. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? None. So moved to fund them the full amount of $2,250. Okay, we will move on to the next part of the agenda, which is new business, supplemental funding request presentations. We'll start with 2027, which is the National Shade Conference, American Conference by HESH for $24,999. You all have 10 minutes to present, 10 minutes of questions.
So we are a Touch Club. My name is Eric Burton. I am the co-president of the club.
I'm Eduardo Serrano. I'm the treasurer of the club.
I'm Samantha Strasberg, and I'm one of the data analysts. And I'm Caitlin Gordon, and I make up the other side of the data analysis.
So the national conference is in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the reason why we want to attend this conference is there's multiple benefits, not only to us club members, but students in our cohort and our future cohorts. And it gives us a chance to be the club to represent Central and the state of Washington at a national professional setting.
In terms of actual conference participation, we have our club president who earned the, Allie Allen, who earned the Washington State Leadership Award, and because of that, she's being nominated for the National Award at the conference, and she's going to be there to hopefully accept that award. We're really hoping so. And then we also have Allison Bennett, who is going to be the first Central student to ever present at the national conference. She's going to present on teaching dance specifically.
So this conference, again, will benefit us members because it gives us a chance for the 10 sessions, which we can get professional development from. We also have multiple opportunities to build connections with students, teachers throughout the country, as well as to hear from and meet current, past teachers of the year and authors, the books that we actually use in our program. They will be attending this conference. We also be introduced to technology, how to use it in the classroom, as well as how to implement it, how the results of the technology get used. And we will also be introduced and hear from teachers how new strategies they apply to the classroom as techniques and results, and how to apply it to our future classrooms.
And although we're the physical education school health major, the great thing is a lot of these techniques, a lot of these technologies can be applied to more than just physical education, but education as a whole. And we're hoping to bring back all of you, which they'll discuss a little bit more, to give access to not just our department, not just our club members, but the entire school, Department of Education, anyone else that is interested in those cutting edge technologies and techniques.
So to build on what they said, as data analysts, Caitlin and I would be going around to each session, around the convention center to booths, and gathering things such as brochures and handouts that the presenters give out, links to their PowerPoints, and we would build a running document and bring it back to Central that our personal PESH cohort and future PESH cohorts can use for whether it be research papers or their own presentations. But another great thing is that you don't have to be a member of the PESH Association to have this resource. Anyone in the teaching program can have it, whether they need to, let's say, do a lesson plan for PE for some reason, or just any type of research. This is available for any and all people at the school.
And so last year, I was the only student in the lower cohort to represent our cohort, I guess, currently as a whole at the national conference. And I would say that one of the beauties of the PESH program is that we do so many practicums. So we are in the schools every single quarter, starting the spring of our first year and ending with teaching a class on campus, our final quarter. So in the next quarter for us, we'll be doing that. The biggest thing that I brought back from that conference is a big Google Drive. So the second you register for that conference, you get access to this Google Drive that's on the app. And there's lesson plans from all the sessions. There's so many great sessions, you don't get to attend all of them, but the ones that you do and don't get to, you get to take on the lesson plans. You get to take away information on the new technologies. There's video access to kind of watch and bring back to. So when we did our PESH meeting right after I got back, we kind of talked about that. And then the resources, as well as when you're networking with the teachers there. Even though Washington's pretty great, awesome, and all that, there's so many other parts of the country that teach on a lot of different things that have different curriculum. So getting to hear how they're teaching new health and physical education subjects, especially because there are some shifts in how we are learning to teach health right now. It's nice to see what other states are doing and what's working for them too. So it's a great opportunity and something that I think is really neat versus just attending, the Shape Washington conference like we all do.
So we also get that Google Drive from everybody, but the reason why we also have so many people, we're trying to get a lot of people to go to this conference is.
If you don't want to stand up, use some of the people that were hoping to go with this, just a few.
Pretty big PESH club, but we plan to have a lot of people, that way we can kind of divide it out and attend multiple sessions at once, and that way not only will we get the information back, but then we can collaborate on personal notes and everything that individuals gather from these sessions. End of it, and open up questions.
Open up the time to questions. Eric?
How many of this year's cohort has previously been?
Me?
Just you?
Yep.
Yeah, we had about 8 members in the upper cohort go last year, and then I was the only one in our current.
We actually have a pretty small cohort. Our cohort, this younger cohort below us, they have quite a few students that we do.
So just wondering if it's like a smaller cohort and 8 went last year, you're trying to take 30 this year.
Only 8 were able to go specifically because of the very high price point. But we realized, because of the location being in Salt Lake, we looked at how much it would be per person, and we realized, hey, instead of just sending 8 from these 2 cohorts, we have the opportunity to send up to 30 students to actually be able to go to this conference.
And last year the conference was in Florida, so my plane ticket alone, which I paid about half the trip out of pocket last year, and my plane ticket was $700. Whereas the Salt Lake plane tickets, last time I looked, were half the price of that.
But a little bit less,
Yeah. And so there was 8 students in the upper court that all graduated. There's 18 in ours right now.
Eric?
Should the S&A committee choose to not fully fund this, how will you determine amongst the people that are going who will get to go and who won't?
Yeah, great question. We have an actual point system of how much each member participates in the club. And depending on however much we were to get funding, a certain threshold would get them full funding, and another threshold would get them partial funding, however much that happens to be. And if we need to reduce the number, that's also something we discussed, but we're open to send as many as we can, especially since the low cohort, like they said, they're starting teaching in the spring. They can immediately use those techniques and technologies as soon as we start their practicums.
Any other questions from the committee? We don't need anything else for next week. All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to request 2029, which is the Metro National Conference, Arizona, for $8,500.
that's
My name is
basically.
Fernanda Konoshi Rivers. I'm part of NICHA and I'm the recruiter. Hello everyone, my name is Sheila Avila. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am one of the co-chairs for MESHA this year. So we're requesting funds because we're trying to go to our 27th National MESHA Conference. This is a picture of last year's conference, which was at UCLA. Over 1,500 students got the opportunity to go to this conference. So we're just going to explain a little bit about what MECHA is if you've never heard of us before. So our acronym does stand for Movimiento Estudiantil Chicanx de Aztlán. We originated in the 60s during the Chicanx movement with the United Farm Workers as well. And it was founded in UCLA. Our original mission is to promote higher education and education of our culture and history. So it really started with Chicano studies being implemented into universities across the nation. And our group currently stands by this mission, but it has evolved into becoming a more inclusive group, and we focus a lot more on activism. So on campus, these are some of the things that we've done over the years. So we had a banner drop on the DREAM Act when it was under fire from the administration, and we just wanted it to be known on campus that we are supporters of a new Clean DREAM Act for all students. We also have done Grad, which is the graduation for all of our Latinx graduating students at the end of the year. That is one of our biggest events. And then we also participate in ESC Stuff Club events. One of the big ones is Dia de los Muertos, which we usually participate with the DEC on putting that event on. We have done immigrant exhibitions to show the importance of immigrants in our country. We also fundraise and we do dances, and we also have done voter registration with our political chair.
So these were some of the events that we did off campus in the past years, and as well as this year. So since Chavez Day in Washington State, Yakima, the Washington DACA demonstration, as well as the Florida Congress.
The United We Dream Conference.
And I don't know if y'all heard about this year, we actually teamed up with CWU to take on the protesting about the sheriff. So this was our biggest event that we had this year with over 40 turnout. Most of them probably our members. And what is MECHA National Conference? So we are actually recognized on a national level. MECHA has chapters, and those include university chapters, and then it has regions. So within those chapters, so we kind of make up Washington. So this includes UW Wazoo, YBC. There's a lot of chapters within that region, and then we're also on a national level. And why we're requesting funds, so we're actually having our national conference this upcoming February 27th through March 1st. It will be in ASU, Arizona. We're taking 13 official members, so to get selected, you had to be a member of a club and actually go to mandatory meetings to get more information about our nationals. So it was very extensive interview process as well. And what we're requesting is a total of $8,570. We're pulling $1,500 from our ESC, and then the rest will be coming out of S&A. Flights, hotels, shuttles, and food. That's how we kind of broke it down. From ESC, we are getting 2 set of passenger vans to accommodate the total of students that we're taking. So we're expecting 13, 14 people. And it should take up a little bit, around 1,500. For S&A, we are getting a shuttle to get to the airport, which is like $82 per person, and then flights came down to 180, and we rounded that up a little bit, as well as hotel came down to a total of $3,400, and we're staying at MSCC's hotel, and it's close to the conference where it's going to be located. And then transportation, like I said, we're taking 2 7 passenger vans. So from S&A, we actually lowered it down to where it's only costing $7,070, just because we did find some flights that were cheaper than what we initially had budgeted for. So this is a picture from last year's conference. And these were actually some of the members that got to go.
So a little bit about what happened at our last national conference in UCLA. Me and Fernanda were both fortunate to be able to go, and they had great keynote speakers. If any of you know Jessica Salgado, she's a really big poet in the Latinx community. Also Bambi Salcedo, she's a transgender Latinx person, and she is great. She did really, she closed out the conference for us, and it was a really good experience for all of us. We also had a lot of different types of workshops. The workshops are really diverse. Our national conference, the workshops are put on by NECHA students from across the nation. So the workshops that we actually attend are really diverse. It's extensive from like learning history from Mexico about what's currently going on in the past, learning about different Chicano studies that you can see at different universities, learning more about the history of NECHA, just different things. We also had a day of action where we did march in downtown LA with the rest of the students, and it was a really impactful action that we did. We ended the march at the ICE detention in Los Angeles, and it was a really emotional time for a lot of our students, and it was a really good experience as well. We also did meet up at the LAPD headquarters with the Black Lives Matter movement to talk more about that and the police brutality that happens in Los Angeles. And then there was a panelist from the East LA walkouts from the 60s, so that was a big historical moment that happened, and it relates to a lot of the students that are a part of NECHA. And then at the end, we had a resolution circle where we talked about our name change. NECHA has been around for 50 years now, and at this last Nationals, history was made because we decided to change our name, and we decided to actually drop the CH, which stands for Chicanx, which was a big deal because that is a part of the identity of NECHA, and the students that come into NECHA, either they identify as Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx, or they know about it, or they relate to it somehow. So changing that from the name is a big move, and so it was really controversial. We were on national news all over, so that was the big topic at our.
And that's kind of what we're expecting to hear at this conference is whether or not we go forward with the name change. Going forward with the name change would mean that we are more inclusive to people that don't identify as Latinx or Mexican or Chicanx. So the timeline, there's a kind of like a rough itinerary. We will leave February 27th and get to Phoenix somewhere in the afternoon. And then the next day, it's caucuses, Transport Pueblo, which is going to be our leaders for the whole conference. They will do an activism night as well as some workshops. And then on Saturday, we'll also have more caucus blocks, regionals, guest speakers, resolution circles, and then Sunday more resolution circles. Resolution circles are going to determine whether the name change happens or not. What we will bring back to CWU, Semana de Campesinos y San Basa, more informative workshops for members and non-members, improvement in events and programs for members and non-members. We're actually trying to get Dolores Huerta as well and get some more workshops when she comes in, as well as possible name change and being more inclusive for CWU students here on campus that we want them to come to NECHA. And that's all from last year.
Any questions? Joe?
Are there no registration costs for the conference?
That was a problem from last year, was that we charged people, and then now this year, like, no, everybody can come in, so it's just apply and go.
100.
How did you pick the number 13 for students to go?
Yeah, so our NECHA chapter is really big. Usually the first meetings we range anywhere between 50 to 70 people. So we're a pretty big organization as well as BFC, so we're kind of the same level. And our average is somewhere between 30 members every meeting. So we kind of want the opportunity for all our members to go. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But most of the members that are going, we saw that they were, those 13 members that we saw were really focused on NECHA, have been helping out with fundraisers, have been involved. And we also have 3 more students, possibly 4, that will be purchasing their own tickets and going to nationals just because we have members that really want to go, but unfortunately we just don't want to overspend funds or anything, but we're around anywhere between 16 to 17 people that are going.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, like what's some stuff you guys do in the workshops, like specifically?
So I guess the workshops kind of just depend on what workshop you're actually going into. One of the workshops that I ended up going, I'm not sure if I can remember correctly, was the history of, I totally forgot, I blinked out. But it was an activist in Mexico, and basically what he has done and how can we take his work into today's modern day, how can we learn from him. So a lot of them can range from gun rights to activism to just history to being more educated.
There's also a lot of arts workshops that we have. A lot of people that have gone to the conference and present, they, because it's half students and then half like professionals. And I remember one of the ones that I went to was how to like deal with your trauma through art and your own art, feel like your own art that you can do. So a lot of these, some of these workshops can be really like artistic and free-spirited, and we do tell our members like go to the ones that like you think that you will learn the most from and that you can bring back to Central, that you can bring for our group, like the organization itself, but that also you can learn from and use in your own like field if you want to.
Yeah, I know. Last year we did have a workshop and we brought it back to our general meetings where we did the same workshop that we were taught at nationals.
Any other questions from the committee?
Can you just click it back to the price breakdown? Oh, yeah, actually, sorry. Go back to one. Is that for driving to the airport or like while you're there?
So these would get some of the enterprise cards that we would get for the big passenger trains overnight.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thanks. Well, next week. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to request 2030, which is base day with Christine Cord. Alright, with base club for $1,600.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eva.
My name is Nate.
And we are both bass players here at Central. I'm a club member, and Nate is club president. And we've hosted this event, Bass Day, for 3 years in a row now. This would be the 4th. And every year we bring in a top bass artist. We've had internationally renowned bass players from various different musical genres come. And if you like bass, you might know the names Diana Gannett, John Clayton, and Lauren Pierce. Those are our 3 previous guests. This year, we'd like to bring in Kristen Korp. Kristen Korp is one of the biggest names in jazz bass in the world. So it's a really big deal that she's willing to come here. This event is open to bassists of all ages from all over Washington. We've consistently had students ranging from middle school to graduate school attend this from all over the state. Everyone in the bass studio will be required to attend from here at Central, but we have a lot of people from the Seattle area and Tacoma and people from Spokane as well. And students participate in group classes as which are referred to as clinics, as well as receive individual feedback from guest teachers in master classes. And at this event consistently draws 30+ students. I think we have had about 40 in the past.
So Kristen is a bass player, a top-notch bass player, but she also sings at the same time when she plays, which is really unique to bass players. And she's especially skilled in this way that people often forget that she's singing at the same time as you're playing. So she'll also be contributing those skills. And international, she's from Denmark. She's on tour right now. She's on a world tour, stopping at CWU. She's one of the former presidents of the International Society of Basses, which is a huge deal. That's like having Barack Obama in this room.
And the way the day is going to be laid out is the first thing to happen is a clinic or group class. And what that's for is, well, every teacher has their own way of getting their students warmed up and ready to play. And so every teacher we've invited has shared their, and Christian will do so as well, has shared their methods of warming up, preparing to play, and ways to improve your technique. 12:30 to 1 o'clock, lunch break, self-explanatory. 1 o'clock to 3:30 is the master class. This is the individual feedback portion, where a student will play for Kristen, and she will, in front of all other students, and then she'll give them individual feedback. And then at the end of the day, she will play a recital accompanied by the CWU bass studio.
Okay. So the budget, we're paying Kristen $1,800, and we've requested $200 from Club Council, and the rest of the clinician fee from here. Bass Club will be funding everything else associated with the event, such as food that will be, I won't say food, but snacks that we'll be providing during lunch break, and advertising materials, and printing for printing the package of warm-up materials, in addition to any posters that we'll be putting up.
Yes, so out of these packets that Nate just mentioned, every student gets a packet of information about the teacher, and information from the teacher, like her warm-up routines, or whatever information she wishes to share. And also they get central flyers and central lanyards and stuff like that. And all that comes in a big old manila envelope, and we distribute that to every student. Can you tell us a little more about the all-inclusive clinician fee?
Yeah, so we're not paying for any of Kristen's hotels or transportation or anything like that, because she's on tour, and those prices are very subject to change. So the clinician fee includes her hotel for the night, and also putting on a 1-hour recital, and putting on this the clinic and the master classes for 4.5 hours.
Why is this important? Well, this is a major recruiting event for the CWU music department. Nate here went to this event in its first year, and then he was like, hey, maybe I should go to Central. You can see how that ended up. And like I said, all the Central lanyards and swag are distributed by Base Day, and actually at least half probably of our of this year's freshman class have been to at least one Base Day in the past. So it's a big deal to the base area that this event gets put on. It keeps people interested in our university. And with no jazz basic courses offered, it fills an important gap in the student's education. Now, Kristen Korb, she can probably play anything, but her specialty is jazz. And we are a really good jazz school still, despite having no jazz major anymore. But there's not a lot of way for students to get jazz instruction on their instrument. So this is one of the few and far between opportunities that these students are going to have here at Central, are going to have to get specific feedback on their jazz skills. And I'll add on to that, because our bass professor is part-time, she comes in once a week, we get very few jazz or bass guest artists. So basically the only ones that come in are the ones that we bring. And the CWU students get an opportunity to work with the best in the field. Like I said, she's the best in the field. She's world renowned. So it's pretty amazing that she is willing to come here. And it puts CWU on the map musically, kind of bass-wise, keep the bass community in the Northwest interested in looking at Central as a place where events happen and artists want to come and visit, and where they can go and learn from a really, really high quality from the really high quality music department that we have here.
I'd like to add on to that just a little bit and say that a lot of people say hands down our music department is the best in the entire Pacific Northwest, Alaska, Hawaii included. And a lot of that is because of events like this.
All right, thank you for listening to our presentation. What questions do you have?
First, before I open it up to the committee, I just have a couple clarifying questions. So, if like this event didn't happen, would you say like it's like the recruitment number of bass like majors would drop substantially?
Yes, I think so.
I would say so.
Yeah, since so bass, this is its fourth. This will be Bass Day's fourth year. In the last 2 years, the bass population of Central has increased exponentially. And I think Bass Day is a big part of it.
So kind of like the sole purpose of this event is kind of like recruitment?
I wouldn't say it's the sole purpose. I think it serves recruitment purposes as well as being an opportunity for current students.
Yeah, first and foremost, this is an educational event. Okay.
Knowing that this is, I think, coming up in 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, on the 8th. I mean, have there already been contract pieces, obviously, for her to be here? Or what happens if the funding is not approved? What is the backup plan?
We can dive deeper, further into club council. And we have a little bit more money in our club account that we can dive into.
Edgar?
So of the 30 plus students that attend, how many are non-CU students?
This year, we have our biggest ever bass studio, so we have, 18 in the studio this year? But previously, the number's been more like around 10. So, more than half non-CWU students. But a whole big chunk of those kind of later become CWU students.
Joey?
And that's specifically when you're talking about the master classes. What's normally the attendance for the concerts in the evening? Because I know that's another piece of this. Is it just the same group, or is that a wider amount of people who attend?
Yes, it's the same group, although it is open to people who would like, to the community, or parents, or anyone who did not participate in the events of the day.
Okay.
Are all the events for the day free, or do they require an entry fee or anything?
It's free of charge.
Joe?
Knowing that you kind of mentioned in here the fact that this is a big recruit piece for the music department, was there any request from the music department to assist in funding?
No.
We've never received funding from the music department for an event. I don't think Bass Club has received funding from the department.
Lacey?
So it looks like there's individuals from the music department that attend, is that correct?
That's right. All students, all bass students from CWU have to attend.
Okay.
So everyone who plays bass at Central will be attending.
Okay, so does that mean, like, I'm looking at your request, when you list CW Music Department, is that the students within CW Music Department, or is it the actual faculty and administration?
Students.
Students.
Is there academic credit, Steve?
Could you just clarify that students are required to attend?
So if you're a bass player at Central, then you're enrolled in lessons, and then lessen the syllabus, you have to be in bass club. And bass club events are string events. And according to that syllabus, all bass players must attend all string events.
This is true of all instruments in the music department, and I don't know about non-instrumental majors, but all students of a certain instrument have to attend all events that have to do with their instrument. So Nate and I are required to attend all bass events, bass concerts, anything given on this campus.
Sweet. Are there any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you. Vote on next week.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we will move on to the final request of the evening, 2031, which is the American College Dance Association Northwest Conference, which is the SDA, and, so sorry, I can say this, the Orchis Dance Company.
It's okay, we get that all the time.
For $6,661.
6,000.
Just 6,000?
6,600, whatever that is.
6,660.
It should be 6,000.
It's 6.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I think he said 4,000.
I'm sorry, $6,661.03.
Yes, that's correct.
Alright, you got 10 minutes.
Perfect. All right. My name is Caitlin. I'm the vice president of the Student Dance Association here on campus. Unfortunately, our president could not make it. She is teaching dance classes in the afternoon.
I am Emma Tyree, and I'm the SDA senator. So the conference that we're going to is called American College Dance Association. It is a Northwest Regional Dance Conference. It will be in Spokane, Washington. In years prior, it has been at Salt Lake City, Utah, and the year before that it was at Boulder, Colorado,
And Portland.
In Portland.
The year following that.
The year following. When it will be March 11th to the 14th, but we will be traveling on the 10th and then coming back on the 15th. So what is ACDA? ACDA consists of classes. Sorry, I'm a little excited with transitions. When we register for this event before the conference, we are sent a link and we can sign up for classes of different sessions each day. So you kind of come in with the schedule of what classes you're going to.
It's very similar to like how you sign up for classes here. Like you pick and choose. So there's
It's first come, first served.
Yeah.
So if that class fills up, then you can no longer sign up for
So
that
there's like
class.
5 classes offered, 5 or 6 classes offered every
hour.
and you
Hour
just
and a
pick
half.
one of those.
Mhm.
And so you do 3 classes a day.
Yes. All of these, they're very like judgment-free zone. Everyone's there to learn. Everyone's there to create. No one is there to watch you and judge you for it. A lot of the classes have various dance styles that include improv, musical theater, ballet, tap, modern contemporary ballroom. There was even like a capoeira class. Like anything that involves your body moving, there will be a class for it. And at the end of the conference, there are master classes that are able to attend. This only depends on how big your program is, because you are only given a certain amount of tickets to attend the master class. Central usually receives at least 1 ticket per class. So last year there were 3 master classes, and 1 student out of the group that went got to go to at least 1 of those classes. They are taught by professionals. Yes, that's it. Performances. Central, we are bringing 2 dance pieces. One of them is Hey There by a faculty, our Professor Therese Young, and another is High Expectations by one of our own students, Caitlin Stewart. The dance pieces are adjudicated, and it's usually a panel of professionals. The dances are anonymous to the adjudicators, so there's no favoritism in factor. They just see what they see, like it, and if they like it enough, the performance will be selected to go to Washington, D.C. and perform their piece there.
And it doesn't have to be just student choreographed pieces, it can also be faculty, as she mentioned. I know last year we brought 2 student
We
pieces.
typically try to bring student pieces.
But as a group, or because we're student or club members, we always vote on what pieces we want to be seen at ECDA, or what we want to show, what we feel like will be a good way to present Central at this conference, what we present up on that stage. This year just so happened to be a faculty and student piece, but there are also schools that bring in a guest artist piece for choreographed by someone who's not even a part of their program. But we typically like to either do student pieces or faculty pieces. Networking, why is this great for Central? If you didn't know, Central is one of the 4 universities in Washington State that has a dance program. The other 3 are UW, Western, and Cornish. And even then, I don't think they have a dance program, but they have a performing arts center. They do have a big performing arts group. But, and even then, like, our dance program isn't that big. We just got a dance major in 2017. So our, Caitlin and mine, sophomore year, we came in and there wasn't a dance major, and then our sophomore year, there wasn't, we got to declare. It's also a great way to get our name out there. As you know, even though the adjudicators have anonymity, as students attending the conference, when we watch the performances, because usually we go to classes during the day and then concerts at night, we get a program and we get to see what each piece is from which school. And people typically know you by, oh, you were that dance piece, I loved it, it was great. You were the one that did the thing with the thing. And so that's how you're kind of known at the conference, or if you're in a class, you're like, I saw you on stage and you are with this class with this piece, I thought you were great, your program looks amazing. And so the students and faculty do get to go through an adjudication process with the adjudicators, and so they kind of get to receive constructive feedback and hone their creative abilities of maybe a different perspective on how they could have gone with some part of their choreography in their piece. This conference is a great opportunity to build repertoire and relationships to build our program even more. As you know, there have already been a couple of conferences housed in our Pacific Northwest region. This year, I think for the first time in Washington, and then prior Portland. I personally think it would be great if we would be able to build up our dance program big enough and get a performance center big enough at Central, so then we could also host the conference here and just have an abundance of colleges and universities and programs coming to Central. As you know, the theater program is one of the few schools that offers a BFA, and our music department is pretty national renowned as one of the best music schools. So why can't our dance program try and strive for the same? Hey There! Hey There is the piece choreographed by Therese Young. It is an agricultural piece about the cultivating, growing, and harvesting process of hay. Therese was inspired by the huge farming influence in Eastern Washington and wanted to showcase that through dance. And she worked very closely and consulted often with Anderson Hay to make the piece feel really authentic. High Expectations is the second piece that we were bringing to present for at the conference. High Expectations, choreographed by senior Caitlin Stewart, is based on the crazy beauty standards we have in society that force us into a box. It explores how we feel trying to uphold these standards and also shows how we judge those who do not adhere to those specific standards. Or just a little insight of what we're doing. Cool, so this is kind of our budget breakdown. This is everything we've asked for before club funds from last quarter. Fortunately, we got the $2,000 that we asked, which is why we're asking for the $6,661.03. So this is kind of our breakdown. We have 22 total participants going. We ask every year in the beginning of the year who wants funding and who doesn't want funding, and I'll go over that in just a moment. It turns out that 3 of the participants did not request funding. So the total of each expense is the grand total, and then taking out each personal expense, we broke it down, divided it into 2 for each number, and that's how much we're requesting funding for. So the difference is the stuff that the 3 who aren't going do not want that. So for example, the Airbnb, we asked for $4,746. Of those 19 that are asking for funding, we're only asking $4,099. That just goes all the way down. We are trying to, so we're staying in an Airbnb because there's 22 of us. It's the most cost efficient between Airbnbs or hotels and hostels and stuff like that. It just seemed, we found a big enough Airbnb.
Yeah, so instead of, getting a bunch of rooms in a hotel for a way cost, we're just gonna cram everyone into a house.
Yes. So we are also driving to, it's in Spokane this year. Last year it was in Salt Lake City, Utah. We ended up
Which we drove.
motor pool and we
Yes.
drove the 13 hours there and back, which was a bonding experience to say the least. And we decided that it would be a good idea to do it again. Registration fees, this is something that everybody has to pay out of pocket. We have receipts, and if they decide to get reimbursed, after we go through all of the asking for funds and stuff, that will be distributed to them. The adjudication, as you mentioned, one student and one faculty is going this year. The faculty is paying her own adjudication fee. But the student is paying, Caitlin, she had to pay for hers, and hopefully that we'll get that reimbursed as well, because there's, I think, 14 of the 22 performing in that piece.
And of the 22, and then last year we only brought, how many? 14.
Yes,
14
and
people.
we forgot to mention that the hay piece that we're bringing includes all of the company members that are going, which I think is like 18 or 19 of us. There's 4 or 5 club members going. The rest are company Orcus members.
Who are also club members. Everyone who is going is a club member.
Yes, you have to be a club member to go, but a lot of the club members are also Orcus company members. Yeah, so that's pretty much our expense report broken down as best we could. Yes. So, you're gonna ask how are we gonna decide who gets reimbursed? We have a point system that myself and the other Caitlin have created. It's a little intense, and I'll break it down as best as I can for you in the time that I have allotted.
This is just an example
Yes.
of our fall quarter breakdown.
So, to receive funding, you have to be what we consider an active member in the club. Active members get you points, and this is how we broke down the points the best that we could. So if we were considering like an active member, we'd say that they went to 5 of the 7 meetings, attended at least one of the events that we had, posted on social media, and tabled for a minimum of 4 hours. This is kind of how we came up with the total points required. You do not have to make up the 81 points following this. So somebody can make up, you go to all the meetings. Oh, no, you're
10
good.
minutes.
Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you. Oh, perfect. All right, we'll open it to 10 minutes of questions.
Can you finish explaining the point system?
Yeah, sorry. I could talk a lot about it.
it was crazy.
We don't need to have a motion.
No, you don't. Yeah. They do not have to do all of the events. If they cannot make events, they can share on social media. If they only want to go to the events, they do not have to share on social media. The only thing that we do require for them is to come to these meetings, because at these meetings, we go over everything they'll need to know regarding the conference, whether it's registration due dates, Airbnb payments, anything like that, that we would need to talk about. We felt that was most important, and we didn't want to reiterate it 10 times to individuals who didn't go.
Yeah, and a lot of these avenues have actually brought in a lot of club members.
Yes.
Whenever we're tabling, there's always at least a couple people who are like,
Yeah.
what's SDA? What do you guys do?
They're
And
all
then
things that
sometimes,
benefit our club.
yeah, more often than not, we do see them come to a club meeting, and then sometimes they stay and sometimes they don't. But we always get questions. The question wasn't asked, but a couple examples of the events that we put on was a workshop, and then we also did an event in Blue Central.
Yeah, so again, if you'll see here, it says total points required, 25 are in meetings. Like I said, we want people to come to these meetings, but what if you have work? What if you have an extenuating circumstance where you can't come to the majority of the meetings? So we created an appeal process where members could anonymously show their case as to why they can't come. Like, if it's one thing if you just don't want to show up, it's another if you have a work situation. So we created that as well.
Well, with this, I know you have 22 people, but 19 requesting funding. Have all 19 met the requirements? Because I know this is fall quarter.
As of right now, yes. There's a couple that had some extenuating circumstances, but for the majority, they all met the requirements. And we've seen it be very successful.
Yeah, this system has been set up in a way where if you do anything, you can get points for it, as long as it pertains to the club. It's not hard to meet these requirements.
This is just what we came up with to show.
Yeah, we're just asking that you do your work in the club.
Yes.
A question, you're leaving on the 10th, but the conference doesn't start till around
Yes.
noon on the next day. Have you
So
considered leaving on the morning of the 11th?
yes, but it turns out that there's like classes start at 12, but there's a window where you have to go in and like sign in between then and there. So usually around like 9 or 10, schools will start showing up and signing in and getting to know the campus and like where all the classes are, because last year when we went, classes were spread out over the entire University of Utah campus. So we like to get there. We won't leave early in the morning on that Tuesday. We're leaving sometime in the afternoon to get there, get people settled, and so that in the morning they'll be ready for classes.
Yeah, it's just so we're trying to prepare everyone in our club the best as we can. So coming a day early allows us to set up everything, make sure people are like comfortable, and then get there early the next morning without having to drive 4 or 5, however many hours. I also think it prepares us better as movers, because a lot of these classes are movement classes, and it's kind of setting up your body for like just the not like the worst possible thing, but like as movers and as dancers, it's not good for our bodies to like sit in a car driving for 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours, and then suddenly, okay, you're in a class, and now you have to move, and now you have to do all these dance technique things when you haven't been able to warm up.
Joey?
Here's the last one. The 2 pieces that are being adjudicated, are those pieces that you all will be performing at Central at some point in time?
So
or?
we performed them last year at our spring show. Yeah.
So for next year, for next ACA conference, we will be bringing shows.
Got it.
Yes. It's not necessarily how they have to do it, because schools have brought things from 10 years ago, they've just brought it back, but that's how we like to do it, so that we have a rotating number of students that get to show the pieces. Any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you.
Oh, we have a
Oh,
So
dang.
the 3 people that aren't requesting funding, do they have to meet this point system as well?
No, this is a totally optional thing if you don't want funding. Like if they say we can't make up the 81, there's no way, then they're just saying we don't want funding.
But they can still go.
They can still go.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
They're also still club members.
And how many club members do you have total?
We have a running list of about 25 to 30. It just depends on who comes in and out.
What about the company? How many people are in the company?
Right now we have 24. Yeah, we just had winter auditions and we added about 7.
And not everyone in the company is in our club.
Any other questions? Okay, alright.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you.
for sticking out with us, guys.
Yeah,
Have a
no
good one.
worries. Yeah, you too. Okay. Let's look at this. Going into other business communications received. Tracy.
I do have one. So there is a thank you card to the committee and chocolates. So please, I know it's at the end of the meeting, but please open those, read the card. It is from the supplemental request from the educators that went to Hawaii for their conference. So just a big thank you to everybody. So please feel free to pass that around, read it, eat the chocolate.
Yeah, received any communication.
No, I mean, lots of communication about the supplemental questionnaires, which we'll discuss with the subcommittee on Friday. But that's it.
Alright, we'll move on to public comment. Dane.
Just in regards to what we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting about being fair and equitable to other requests at this point in our budget and everything like that. And I just kind of thought about this last week, I guess. Maybe the reason why we have had this increase in funding compared to last year, I've only been here since last year. I mean, a couple of us have been here last year. Eric's been here for, I don't know how long, But,
Eric doesn't know how long he's been here.
but the difference between this year and last year, a big difference that I see, I don't see it, we all see it, is that we've accepted food more. We pay for food, and that's a big cost. And so the consequence of that is just our budget. I mean, I'm all for funding food, but the consequence of that is our budget being expanded. We're spending more money overall. just want to get that out there.
Lacey first.
I'd like to add, I do think that there is an impact based off of that, absolutely. But I'd also like to add that there is some impact due to the changes in club or funds council. So the ASCW funding model. So that's the, I mean, if you look at the list, we're seeing a lot of clubs come through. So just be mindful of that. But yeah, travel is a pretty big expense, and the costs around conferences and everything else are going up. So it's pretty natural to see that increase. But I think the awareness of S&A supplemental is also increasing as well. So I think there's multiple reasons, but we are getting quite a few major dollar figure requests out there.
This question is for Lacey. The health of the fund and for future years, if at some point we decided that through the requests that were coming in through spring that we wanted to increase our budget for this year, would you have a positive, negative, or neutral stance on that? And if you don't want to answer that, that's totally fine. I was just curious.
I would say regardless of the decision made at the table, there will be an impact.
Okay.
So if you do increase your budget, you will impact the future supplemental years. There will be less money. This is one-time money that we're dipping into.
Thank you.
If you don't increase your budget, you will have impact on our current students right now. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is regardless of the decision, there's going to be an impact, and I think you guys really need to think about that. And also think about what are the funds that you are allocating through the supplemental process, what are they being allocated to specifically, and what is that return on investment for Central as a whole.
And this is probably not germane to today, but the $112,000 request, are there questions on that from you?
So
I was
the
just
ones
curious.
that are
Is it still
color-coded are not totally final.
Okay.
Yes, I do have quite a few questions. Not every one of those I actually have questions on, but there's just a couple of pieces. Some of them are minor, that their budget templates need to be updated and so forth, but that one specifically, I do have questions that have yet to be answered.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Lacey. The one that's the Department for West Side Student Life.
Yes.
is that if you can answer this, is that a staffing funding model, or is that for events and stuff?
When we get to there, you'll see that. No.
Okay. That's fair.
No, so West Side Student Life is a S&A based funded area. So they've kind of gone through a couple of name changes, I think, but basically they are the student involvement department on the West Side. And they are requesting an additional FTE. I don't believe it's so a full-time employee. I actually don't know if it's going to be 40 hours of work full-time, but they are requesting an additional professional person to work.
Okay. I'm just curious. Thank you.
And obviously their supplemental form will have a lot more information and also their presentation. But I believe really it's trying to address the multiple centers that Central has. And not just on the West Side.
That's right.
Yeah.
All university centers.
Joe.
Unrelated public comment. Just so you all know, we do have provost candidates coming over the next 3 weeks, starting next week. There will be open public forums, and there's time set aside with those. On that note, I will not be here next Wednesday because I will be with one of the candidates. So I apologize that I will not be here. Next week is the start of us having program reviews come in. So we do have 3 program reviews that will take place along with the voting and then other supplemental.
While you're with this candidate, will they be maybe dropping by it here during our meeting?
No.
Oh, okay.
They'll be with the search committee. If you all are still going, I may show up afterwards. I will not be far away, but yeah.
Okay, you were asking me earlier about that breakfast bar.
Is this the public comment?
Yes, this is a public comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to, there's a new option for food. What do you all think of the breakfast bar?
Breakfast burrito bar, just for clarification.
That's what they.
I see thumbs up from Dave.
So we got one person.
I think it's okay.
Yeah. Josh is just trying it out.
I was just seeing what everybody thought. So,
You moved to adjourn.
I support it. I would
Okay.
support breakfast. Eric?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
No, not yet. Congratulations, Josh, on your new
Yes.
role.
Oh, thank you.
What do we, boy, I'm not paying attention.
Josh is our new permanent
Oh, you're
vice
permanent.
president for enrollment management.
Congratulations.
You get to stick around.
He no longer has interim in front of his title.
What's up,
And
guys?
did this just happen today?
Yeah.
week.
I didn't know, what is today?
I don't know.
I think
Today's
it was last
Wednesday.
week.
Yeah.
Friday.
But
Sorry about that. Go ahead, guy.
I know that we just closed, so I can talk right now. I know you're all going somewhere, so am I. But yeah, I just overheard you say that this is one-time money. Like all of this money is coming out of a single place that gets diminished over time.
So, yes, so for S&A supplemental, it actually comes out of our reserves, so it doesn't come out of our yearly revenue that we're collecting each year.
Okay, so like, you can't, okay, there is no like, black tie, $500,000 plate charity dinner that replenishes this money.
No. Now, there can be, so with the funding process, we allocate for 4 years, and at the end of that 4-year period, if a base funded area has funding available, it will get rolled back into supplemental, so there could be additional money rolled back, but it's usually a pretty small percentage of what ends up coming back to the S&A supplemental budget.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like, if it was possible to do those charity things, like the Rainier Club over in Seattle, for example, it's like where all the old rich people are like hanging out, and then the Columbia Club is where all the new money hangs out, you know? Like, it'd be really cool to like get that fund replenished, like have that ability to year over year, but I don't know the legalities. I'm just sitting out here in the peanut gallery throwing that out. I mean,
Well, if you want, we can actually talk a little bit more after the meeting in a little bit more detail if you'd like.
okay, yeah,
Awesome.
okay.
Alright, entertain a motion. Eric?
there is a motion on the floor.
Oh. Edgar seconds. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone.
Close the meeting at